But I want to be straight up with you because you know that's Curtis Sliwa, right? That's why I've been stabbed and shot, and people have tried to knock my head off of my shoulders with baseball bats and pipes. I am an anti-Semite. It's in my DNA. I'm a Gentile. I don't care how hard I try. I go to shul synagogue, right, with my two sons. Everyone's davening there. Naturally, the Weisenheimer in me says to the rabbi and to the cantor, hey, can I come up to the beamer? No chance of that. Why? My checks are good, right? I pay for the kids' education, religious education. No chance, unless you see the moil and the pinprick. I said, no, that ain't happening. That is not happening. I'm not happy the way I was born, RC, as we were told, real Christians, Roman Catholic. And why should all of a sudden I want to flip the script and join another religion, right? Although I got to tell you, you Jews, you did the heavy lifting. You know, our God, he was lost 40 days in the desert. You guys, you were lost 40 years in the desert, schlepping around the Old Testament. No wonder why so many of the guys have double hernias nowadays. That's in your DNA. But we have to strongly discuss and openly discuss things that Jews can't say. You say that, and people say, oh, they're kvetching. Oh, they're always complaining, these Jews. I remember I went to the Times Square rally, against the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah is now saying he really didn't mean it, kill all the Zionists, right? We know what that's code language for the Jews, right? Oh, the Zionists. Hey, it's a figure of speech. It's like when Yasser Arafat said, oh, wait a second, the Intifada, it's religious, has nothing to do with actual physical violence, right? Get out of here. But all I saw were a whole bunch of Jews on the stage, and I saw a lot of people with yarmulkes out there in the crowd, and I said, where are the Gentiles? Hey, you don't have Gentiles speaking up for you. Then forget about it. You can bag and tag it. Because I got to tell you, there's a big difference between Israel, where I've spent a great deal of time. Also got in quite a bit of trouble with some of the Israeli ladies. Maybe that's what's led to so many of my family issues. But I got to tell you, it's fire in Israel, and so many Jews here in America are feckless and weak. They fold like cheap cameras. They're schlubby. They're nebbishy. Oi. Hey, it's time to toughen up. It's time to have a set of onions. It's time to realize you are targeted. And in our DNA, we get those flashbacks. And I'm not talking about Good Friday when all of a sudden we think CK Christ killers. Look, today I was in Middle Village with the Guardian Angels, marching with the veterans in advance of Veterans Day. They stopped at Christ the King High School to give the award. CK, that's the nickname, CK. As I was taught by the Josephite nuns, the Irish nuns at St. Matthew's on Eastern Parkway and Utica Avenue, they taught me two things. They said Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, was killed by the Jews. Now, they also told me that St. Brendan the Navigator discovered the New World and not Christopher Columbus. You think I'm going to go back to Canarsie with all those Supreme Cuisines, those Italians, and tell them that St. Brendan the Navigator, an Irishman, discovered the New World? You've got to be out of your mind. No, I didn't accept that. And this nonsense about, it's all about killing Christ, and it wasn't Pontius Pilate or the Romans, it was the Pharisees. Nonsense. We were taught in our religious class or catechism class, if you didn't go to Catholic school, that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, died to cleanse the sins of the world. He would have died under any circumstance, by any means necessary to do that. So I don't believe that malarkey. The reason that you believe that CK myth is Gentiles are jealous. Jealous. Just like now, all of a sudden, Asians are discovering that. And people from the southeast continent, India and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Pakistan, and other places, China, Taiwan, Japan, Korea. Why? Because they're experiencing what the Jews have experienced for centuries. When you excel, when you play by the rules, when you work harder than everyone else, when you understand that you have to look after your own, because if you don't look after your own, you're going to trust Gentiles to do that? Really? Really? Come on. I hate to use the term schmucks and putzes, but you really are. Look at the history. You're supposed to be bright people, the chosen people, right? Bright. You couldn't be any less bright not to understand the relationship that Gentiles have had with Jews throughout the centuries, and it continues to this day. Right now, I'm having an anti-Semitic moment. Cindy, I need some water. And please, not from the River Jordan. When I was in Israel, I was so disappointed. There it was. I'm expecting the scene of St. John the Baptist baptizing Jesus Christ, and I see this little tributary, this little stream. And I say, yeah, but how? All these fruits and vegetables, all this greenery. Israel's a desert. Meantime, Moonbeam Jerry Brown in California, the 8th biggest economy in the world, they're suffering from drought. And you would think someone would say, why don't you follow the path of Israel, right? Managgia, as we say in Italian. Oh, if we were to say that, we might offend people out there. Who would we be offending? If we said that California, which is slipping into the abyss, Southern California, if you know the geography, is a desert. They've overbuilt on it. They haven't provided the resources necessary that Israel has. Why couldn't we as a country say, we are not pretentious, we don't know everything? Why don't we just follow what Israel has done? Have you read anything about that? Huh? Right? No? No, they grow oranges, they grow crops in Israel. I know, I was there. And then I went to Tiberias, right? The Sea of Galilee there, where Jesus had the loaves and the fish is very important to us. And I'm in the chapel there that was built by Benito Mussolini, Il Duce, fascist. And I said to myself, and it's here. And then I went swimming in the Dead Sea. You can't be at any lower in elevation than the Dead Sea. And here are these huge whales, these walrus Russians. They're diving in and out of, they're like enjoying it. And then all of a sudden I dive in and I get sick for a week. So forget about any water or any tributaries or anything having to do with Israel. But one thing I know what they could do in Israel is grow in a desert and survive drought and survive pestilence and survive all of those things that we were told about. Remember when we saw Moses, and Yul Brynner as the Pharaoh, and all the dreaded diseases and pestilence and locusts and everything that plagued so many of those other countries in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East. And yet Israel has overcome all of that. So why wouldn't we let them lead and then us follow? See, because there's a basic block in Gentiles' thinking. Jews always think they're better than everyone else. That's why they call themselves the chosen people. I prefer to say, wait a second, hold your horses. They were chosen to do the heavy lifting. They had to carry around the Old Testament so that we could truncate it. You know, we Christians, you have what, 10,000, laws? We got 10 commandments. You have like 50,000 commandments. We've truncated everything. We've made it easy. Hooked on phonics. That's our New Testament. Your Old Testament goes on forever and a day. So first off, let's eliminate this nonsense that this anti-Semitism continues because we've been weaned on the fact that you killed Jesus Christ. We're told the reason that he died. We accept that. Secondly, I'll never forget when my dad sat around with me at the kitchen table in Canarsie, where I was raised. Great community because it had Jews and Italians. Jews and Italians, we always seem to get together. Seem to get along. Not to suggest there are not anti-Semites amongst the Italians, but the Irish, the Wasps, everyone else, oh man, do you have problems with them? But Italians and Jews, they marry, they intermingle, they seem to get along. They like the schmear on the bagel Sunday morning. There's so much we have in common. But I remember at that kitchen table, my father Chester, Polish, Roman Catholic, hardcore, from Noma Lima. That's the Highlands, his grandfather, Anthony, as we accept it, and my grandmother Wanda, who came all the way over to Chicago, which was Little Poland. And my dad was the first son. And it was expected in a Roman Catholic, hardcore Polish family that the first son is going to enter the seminary and the first daughter is going to become a nun. And you can imagine what my dad said to my grandfather and grandmother. You must be out of your mind to think I'm going to be a priest. And he went out and became a merchant seaman for 46 years. He sailed the mighty seas to get away from that obligation because he had questions about his own religion. And I'll never forget, I was going to PS 114 at that time. I had had enough of Catholic school. I had had enough of the Irish nuns, the Josephite nuns. And I was at PS 114, and they put me in the advanced class. There were 27 kids in that class. 25 of them were Jews. There was Sliwa. Nobody could pronounce my name. It was Saliva, whatever. And there was Beth White, who was the last of the Dutch Reformed living in Canarsie. And all of a sudden, in homeroom, the kids were getting the New York Times delivered in homeroom. We're talking 4th grade here. And they're reading it above the fold, below the fold, arts and leisures. They're reading sports last. With me, sports first, and I may never get to the current events. My current events prior to that was the weekly reading, $5 words, big pictures. And all of a sudden, it's, this is why these Jewish kids are doing so well. They're killing me on extra credit reports. They're doing so much better in class. Their communication skills are so much better. Some of these kids, they're talking Yiddish, they're talking Hebrew, yet they seem to be able to function in English too. I'm having a difficult time with English, with my fractured phrases, my euphemisms, my botulized English language. So I had to get my rear in gear. And actually, to the tough guy Italian kids, oh, forget it. I was persona non grata. Hey, what's the matter with you? You hanging out with the Jews? You a Jew lover? So now I had to sort of spend half of my time with my cousins, half of the time with the Jews, and I got a real balanced life. And my mentor was Lenny Beans Bianchino. That was my cousin. I looked up to Lenny Beans Bianchino. He was everything to me. He was my cousin Ralphie's second son. Now, Joey was his first son. He was the oldest. And then this should have been a clue to me. His twin daughters were Loretta and Rebecca. I had never heard of any Lorettas or Rebeccas in Italian households. And then there was Lenny Beans Bianchino. He was a short. He was a little shrimp, but one of the toughest guys who ever lived. That's why when I say tough, right, I tell a lot of the Jews out there, because, they're all academics. They have pearls of wisdom dripping from their lips. They say, we don't want to be like the street goy, like you, Curtis. Really? Do you know that Jake LaMotta, one of the toughest guys to ever get in the ring, was a Jew? Oh, no. Yeah. His mother was a Jew. As you know, you're born, your mother's a Jew, you're a Jew. Not Jake LaMotta. Yeah, Raging Bull, one of the greatest films ever made. De Niro was in the ring, and trust me, I realized the guy was partly a degenerate in some ways, but in the ring, I wouldn't mind being like the Raging Bull in the streets. I might have avoided getting shot 5 times, stabbed up, hit with baseball bats and pipes, if I could fight like the Raging Bull. And he was a Jew. How many people know that he was a Jew? Did you know he was a Jew? How come? How come? In Israel, hey, everybody's like the Raging Bull. Every guy I met, and the gals. I mean, I was listening to you, Miss Siegel, there. I don't know if you're called for right now, but boy, I'd be willing to get involved in a 5th marriage. This is fire. This is what you call toughness. This woman is up here speaking. I'm like, whoa, I want to shrink. I want to become a little nebbishy and schlubby. God, if you ever do get married, now I know why Jewish guys die a lot earlier than their women. Tough with a capital T. And you see, Israel understands that. No matter where they came, whether they did Aliyah, whether they were born there originally and their families raised them, they understood you have to be tough. You're surrounded by enemies. And they're always arguing with one another, wherever I went. From the Golan Heights down to Eilat. Oh, Eilat, I loved Eilat. I went to Aqaba in Jordan. I went to Sharm el-Sheikh. If ever people could get along, it's in that area right before the Red Sea. Now, the Saudi Arabians, forget them. Those guys with the fake schmatas, the mustaches and beards, they bow 5 times to Mecca and Medina. Then they come over here. They're chasing skirts. They're bending their elbows. And they're looking for Jewish doctors at Columbia Presbyterian. So when all of a sudden their congregants say, what hospital were you in? Columbia Presbyterian. Who operated on you? A Presbyterian. There are no Presbyterian doctors in Columbia Presbyterian. Oh, we don't want to tell them back there in the land of Mecca and Medina, the hypocrisy, the fake, phony, fraudulent fugazis that so many of them are. And there are a lot of Jews who don't speak up. I've talked to Jewish doctors, yeah. We operated on princes from the Gulf Kingdom, Bahrain, Dubai, Oman, Saudi, Why don't you tell everybody that? Oh, no, hush, hush, mush, mush. Let everybody know how it's a double standard, how they want to live. And they go to the best, not like the rest. And their people are kept ignorant. They don't educate them. And they feed the beast with anti-Semitism every chance they get. And I can identify with some of that because I've heard that. But let me get back to Lenny Beans Bianchino, because part of the problem is the self-hating Jew. And who would know more about self-hating Jews than me, Curtis Sliwa? What a shanda I deal with every day, that Ron Kuby, whose mommy is a commie. Let me tell you about this piece of work. Born and raised by that mistake by the lake, Cleveland, Shaker Heights, of course, right? He so identifies with street people. Not East Cleveland, not West Cleveland, but Shaker Heights. And then all of a sudden he decides he's going to come to New York. He's going to follow Maya Kahani. He's going to show you as a pair of cojones every Jew at 22. And he's going, at 22 isn't powerful enough. Give me a 44 Magnum. He's all tough. He's full of brim. His family can't control him. So they send him to do a kibbutzim in Israel. And he's out there, he's picking lettuce, he's fertilizing the fields. And then the Palestinian youth introduce him to hashish from the Bekaa Valley. And all of a sudden, the hashish is making love to him. And the Israeli officials catch him. And actually, what do the Israeli officials do? You come here, you smoke, you smoke hashish, you violate our laws. We're kicking you out of Israel forever. Good riddance. So now, I guess he has a complex about that. He hates, he despises Israel, and he's not alone. How many self-hating Jews do you know out there? The moment you mention the state of Israel, they get jaundiced. They act like, oh, I don't want to identify. I walk into a Reform shul synagogue. Oh, it's like I just said the worst thing. It's sort of like it was Dracula, showing the crucifix. What is this? These are your peeps. Don't you know why this country came about? Oh, yeah, but today it's different. Really, it's different. Well, let me tell you something. As I was sitting at the table at Lenny Beans Bianchino with my Uncle Ralphie and my cousin Joey and Rebecca and Loretta, and I should have known, who do you think was making scrambled eggs and bacon in the morning? Aunt Sylvia, who used to work the luncheonette counter at Midnight Roasters in Brownsville, Sackman, and Newport, went to Thomas Jefferson High School, and yes, had her bat mitzvah. And how did I know that? Because I saw the Star of David hanging from her throat, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be excommunicated. She's a Jew. This is how I've been taught. So I'm telling Lenny Beans Bianchino, hey, Aunt Sylvia's a Jew? Yeah, she's a Jew. Well, that makes you a Jew. No, I'm no Jew. And then we go outside and we'd be running Remsen Avenue, we'd be running Flatlands and Seaview Park, and we catch some of these Jewish kids, on Saturday. They're going to their shul, their synagogue. They're doing their worship. And the first one to grab their kippah off, their yarmulke, who do you think that was? Lenny Beans Bianchino. And he's throwing it with the other Gavones and the other Shadruls and the other Supreme Kushins. And naturally, I'm catching it too and flipping it back and forth. And then all of a sudden, one of the kids would say, my booby, my Zeta, please. If they find out, they're going to want to go to the police. Please give me my yarmulke. Okay. You blankety blank, blank, blank. And we'd leave him. This is my cousin, born of a Jewish mother. Obviously, my Uncle Ralphie married a Jew. It wasn't a problem in his head, but the peer pressure in the streets of the Italian stallions, the Supreme Cuisines, was, oh no, you're one of us. And remember, the Italians weren't the worst. Nowhere near the worst towards Jews. So the question is here, what to do if Curtis Sliwa is telling you that it's in my DNA as an anti-Semite? What to do? I remember my father telling me Ira Breskin at PS 114 was given the History Medal for PS 114 for our 5th grade class, even though I had finished second in the borough-wide contest at Brooklyn College. I heard Brooklyn College mentioned. I remember I was a big macha, a big muckety-muck. I finished second. But I didn't study hard. Ira Breskin continued to hit the books, continued to study, do the extra credit reports. He deserved to win that medal at the end of the year in the final assembly as we went from one class, 5th grade to 6th grade. And yet, when we sat in my house, because Italians, Sunday night, macaroni and gravy, none of this pasta and sauce. That's for those northern Italians. We're talking macaroni and gravy. And some of my uncles, they didn't even wear a T-shirt on. I'm not going to tell you what T-shirt. Bare-chested, sitting there at the table, and they wanted plenty of garlic. And it's in it, hey, isn't that a shame that they gave it to the Jew boy? Isn't that a shame? And they're trying to brainwash my mother, who was the youngest of 13, the last drop, the one born in America. Yeah, your son, he really got done wrong by the Jews. And then my father, he pulls me over and he says, sit down here. Don't listen to these chiacchierons. In Italian, that means chiacchierone. He had known that because he was called the chiacchierone by my uncles. He said, let me tell you something. Where I came from, where your grandfather and grandmother came from, there were lands. The Jews had them. They had their shtetl. And a lot of our people just went in there, brutalized them, killed them, raped them, and took their land, took their property, took their name, took everything they had, and did it because they could. They could. That meant with government permission and acknowledgement. My father's telling me this as a young boy. He said, and this has continued throughout history, he said, let's face it, Curtis, you didn't study as hard as Ira did. You didn't push yourself. You thought you could glide into that 5th grade assembly at the end of June and somehow win the medal because you finished second in the borough. But Ira he put it on blast. He went right past you. My father was the great equalizer. He let me know the real deal of what existed. And years later, I was elected Grand Marshal of the Pulaski Day Parade. That's the Polish-American parade with more anti-Semites than I've ever seen other than at a Bund meeting. So I'm coming out of St. Patrick's Cathedral, and there's a busload of people from San Diego who knew me because they're guardian angels now all over the world. And the people from San Diego were very naive, said, Curtis, I didn't understand. They have a parade for Roman Polanski? I said, it's General Pulaski and Kosciuszko. So I had to start. And remember, it's Kosciuszko, not Kosciuszko, like some of you say. So I'm educating them. And the most interesting thing is, after I had a year's term of being the Grand Marshal and picking the Miss Polonias, that was the best part of it, going from lodge to lodge all over the tri-state area. We went to the Polonaise, the huge Polish-American catering hall in Greenpoint, and in fact, where the assemblage would take place to pick next year's Grand Marshal. And naturally, they looked at me and they said, who would you recommend? Now, many of you remember 1979 when I started the Guardian Angels, nobody could have been a worse nemesis to us than Edward I. Koch, the mayor at the time. He called us vigilantes. He called us the Hells Angels. He vilified us. And in June 19th of 1992, when I got shot 5 times with hollow point bullets by John Gotti Jr. and his Gambino thugs, the first person I woke up to in Bellevue in intensive care, and I looked up, and I was coming out, because it's cold. It's like a meat locker. I had tubes in every orifice in my body keeping me alive. And the first person I saw was Ed Koch. I thought he had died and gone straight to hell without an asbestos suit. And then there was Cardinal O'Connor there. He had the extremunction vest on. In the Roman Catholic faith, that's the death vestments. They're going to say the last prayer before they give you a dirt bath. And then there was my wife, Lisa, at the time, who was staring at me like, you're worth more dead than alive. I got that insurance policy right here. But Ed Koch, what did I do? I did the right thing. I said, maybe you should consider Ed Koch. His parents came from Eastern Poland. And they looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. They said, he's a Jew. I said, yeah, a Jew from Poland. He's a Jew. Did you say hot Jew? Yeah, I know he's a Jew. He's a Jewish American mayor of New York City. Look, I didn't always get along with him, but there were good things to say about him, bad things. But don't you think he would be a great Grand Marshal for the annual Pulaski Day Parade? No. So they took a vote. I think there were 72 trustees at the time. What do you think the vote was for Ed Koch? 72 zip. And I was persona non grata after that. Forget about it. For even suggesting that. So the anti-Semitism exists today. So what do? I have an older son, Anthony, from a different relationship. Married a Polish Roman Catholic, hardcore. He's been raised Roman Catholic. So I brought him to the Salute to Israel Day parades. I bring him to all kinds of Jewish events because I know he's not exposed to that in his house. I know he's not exposed to that in other places. Gentiles need to be assimilated and to understand who the Jews are, where they've been, what they've done, and how important they are to Christians and other faiths. And they're not taught that. I got to tell you, I have conversations with Jews and Christians all the time. Jews know little about Christians, and Christians know almost nothing about Jews. And the holy rollers, the evangelicals, they're very supportive of Israel, but understand on the day of rapture, the final day, when your Mashiach comes, although they're betting it ain't going to be the Mashiach, but RJC, guess what? If you don't convert, off with your heads. We jihad you. Did you know that? Did you know that? Oh yeah. Oh, man, please. I know it all because Gentiles talk to me differently than they talk to you. Remember, I'm a Gentile. They know that. It's almost like we can identify with one another. I tried to go to the first town hall meeting that some of your mayors, if you live in the city, Comrade Bill de Blasio held in Washington Heights. It was invitation only. And as I was outside, it was about housing issues and the lack of housing. And one of the Dominicans came up and was speaking in Spanish, and I said, hey, pal, I don't know any Spanish. Could you tell me what you were saying in English? And say, yeah, it's the Jews. It's the Jewish landlords. I said, that's Hashanda Adagoy, and let me tell you why. When the Jews were escaping Europe, and our own president, FDR, turned them away, and other nations turned them away, the Dominicans accepted them. That's right. Your people. And yes, the Jews assimilated, and some of them became business leaders, and some of them helped improve the quality of life, improve educational standards. So how dare you stand here and blame the Jews for the lack of housing in New York City? You see, the Gentile has to say it. Because if somebody with a yarmulke said it, it's, the crybaby Jews. They're always complaining. They control the world. They control Wall Street. They control Hollywood. They control everything. And my answer to all those anti-Semites is, well, if they control it, how did they control it since everybody was against them? Since everybody was trying to annihilate them, execute them, drag them out of their houses, take their money, take their wealth, take their dignity, force them to convert. When Christopher Columbus was leaving Spain, going west, attempting to find the east, hey, that was brilliant, wasn't it? Lucky for us. The Spanish Inquisition was taking place. And to those Jews who decided, hey, I would prefer my head to be attached to my shoulders, they were called Moranos. They converted. As my father said to me as we sat at that table, we might be Jews. How do we know? We can't go back. It's not like the Mormons, all of a sudden they do the sort of the log of civilization. He goes, we might be Jews. We might have Jewish blood flowing through our veins and arteries. We don't go that far back. We have no idea what these people have gone through. We can only imagine. So now, as America moves forward, and apparently our own country is now opposed to the best interests of Israel, and I don't want to hear what all these politicians are saying because they're kya-kya-downs. They could just as quickly turn on you in a heartbeat because the Arabs and the Persians are bright. They understand that money is the grease to the wheel. That money is what makes the political machine go. Not ideology, not identification, not the esprit de corps, not what brings us together, but what fuels the political machine. And they have understood. That's how you buy chairs at the university. That's how you begin to wine, dine, and pocket line politicians. And how dare the Jews form pacts and lobbies? Well, if you didn't form pacts and lobbies, you'd really be on the outside looking in. And what I do for Carter and Hunter, who are my two Jewish sons, and I must admit I had a little fun with the rabbi and cantor. I went to the community center where they got their religious training in Forest Hills, and Melinda Katz, their mother, the Queensboro president, in fact, their name is Katz, so she said, you better talk to Curtis, because I think he's going to have a problem with this. She said to the rabbi, cantor, she was afraid to talk to me. She just thought I would flip the script. So they sit me down and they're schwitzing there in their office. this guy, he may dissemble us. He may beat us down, into a pothole. And so they said, Melinda wants to raise them as Jews. I don't have a problem with that. I think I ought to be contributing to the tribe, since many of my relatives probably deleted mass members of the tribe. They were relieved to hear that. They're going to be wearing yarmulkes, kippahs. I said, don't I wear the biggest kippah of all? Now, obviously, it's to hide some of my hair loss. It works, but who wears a bigger yarmulke than me, right? Why would I have an objection to that? They're going to have only Jewish training. It's not going to be medze, poco, half Roman Catholic. I said, I wouldn't want them trained as Roman Catholics. Are you kidding? I said, we're going to train them as Jews, conservative. I said, go for it, with my blessing. Now, can I come up to the beamer, since I write the check to pay for that? No, you got to see the oil with the pin. No way. So I think we can take a big lesson from Israel. Because everywhere I traveled in Israel, and I traveled extensively. I've traveled during the 50th anniversary. I traveled years later after the Second Intifada. I didn't see a lot of Jews there from America. Oh God, should we go ride the buses in Jerusalem? Should we stop at Sbarro's and get a slice? Oh, we might get hurt. That's when Israel needed you. There was Curtis Sliwa doing live broadcasts there while riding the bus in Jerusalem, round and round and round. And there were a bunch of Christian Nigerians, on a bus that was breaking down every 5 seconds as they did their pilgrimage. But I didn't see many American Jews. Where were they? Feckless, weak. What are you so afraid of? You got to be proud of who you are. You got to be proud of your achievements. You have to tell your children and children's children that you've achieved the success in America against enormous odds. And if blacks and whites and Hispanics and others want to achieve that same goal, they should follow in the footsteps of the Jews and know that it's through education. Education is the great equalizer. Charity. How many Gentiles are charitable towards Jews? How many Jews are charitable towards Gentile causes and Gentile philanthropies without asking questions? And it's not because they hope that'll keep the Gentiles quiet. But you need Gentiles talking about this. Enough. We have enough Jews always saying these things. And to those who are your fair weather friends, give them the litmus test. And let me bring up the biggest of all, because I know it's going to offend people, but I always offend people. I guess that's why 4 women threw me out of their lives. A lot of you said, oh, what a great move by Chuck Schumer, right? Yeah, you said Chuck. That's right. He broke ranks, right? Who did he lobby? His puppet, Gillibrand, voted for the Ayatollah, voted for a death sentence to Israel and America. Who are you kidding? This guy, with all of his power, could have lobbied. Did he speak out against the president? Did he speak out against Kerry? Did he speak out against his colleagues? The answer is no. So don't be fooled. Don't go down that road. As far as I am concerned, you want to destroy anti-Semitism? And I tell my partner, the self-hating Jew, each and every day, Ron Kuby, I say, as far as I'm concerned, Israel is the 51st state. Period. What's best for the interests of Israel is best for us, because we have no friends in the Middle East or the Persian Gulf. None. They're bought. They're paid for. They're Hessians. They're mercenaries. And I don't want to leave you with this note, because I see it every year. And I know the assemblyman is still here. If he's still here, they take the assembly members, the state senate members, all those crooks, and they take the city council people and all kinds of Jewish PACs, take them to Israel to discover what a great place Israel is so they won't be anti-Semitic. And I know many of them are openly gay and lesbian, right? Some of them are closeted. They want to stay closeted. That's their choice. I would say to them and say, get on that El Al jet. Show me a place